This is not my curriculum. It's a description of what shaped me, the past building blocks of my present self. I spent most of my life in Cambodia, a mysterious kingdom with a long and complicated history. It was once the most flourishing and sacred nation in the world, with abundant resources and a rich culture, both symbolized by the remains of a grandiose civilization and its 1,000 temples. But it all eventually fell apart, with the modern history of my motherland being stained by the blood and tears of more than 30 years of incessant civil war and genocide perpetrated by the atrocious Khmer Rouge regime. We often forget the devastating consequences war leaves upon the human mind, the scars forever imprinted in our psyche for generations to come. My parents have decided to make their life a mission to fight against human trafficking in Southeast Asia, consciously sacrificing their children's safety in the process. My memories as a kid are stained by death threats. It took me a long time to realize that all the sacrifices and pain were not abandonment or selfishness from my parents who didn't care, but a courage to fight for an ideal for society that goes beyond their own personal lives. As earlier as the age of 8, I witnessed the ugly side of humanity while spending time with victims of human trafficking and sex slavery, absorbing their trauma and stories, carrying their wounds and tears with me like a burden. Nevertheless, I had to toughen up and bear the pain that was not mine to express. This shaped me to be an activist, rebelling against the deviances of our system. I felt a fire growing in me, where before my existence was occupied by a feeling of emptiness. Now, it was a fertile ground where purpose was furiously sprouting. My rage became uncontrollable, looking for venues to spill. I could only make the promise to myself that I will find justice. I will act with empathy and ethics, preparing myself for the future fights, bearing the responsibilities of what I have seen. For 15 years of my life, I was a prisoner in my own house, trapped in my silent mind. I felt lonely and empty, longing for normality. At the age of 21, I was diagnosed with cancer, what turned out to be my salvation, my redemption. My world became limited by the white clinical walls of waiting rooms and hospital wards. I started 6 months of aggressive chemotherapy, spending hours surrounded by dying people. A shock for a young person expecting life itself to be unfolded in front of her eyes. My body was rotting with every new injections, my cells and spirit crumbling together, all wrapped in unbearable nausea. The chemotherapy transformed me into a person ready for the end of life. This dreadful experience, enduring tremendous amount of physical suffering and mental exhaustion, required a hellish dose of madness to go through. The disease and its treatments were bringing me each day closer to death. I found refuge in my solitude through the serenity of meditation. I discovered a form of tranquility and calmness, observing through the window the timelessness of birds, of trees, of life. I opened my mind to the concept of time and the notion of impermanence, compelled to observe the world around me with equanimity. I felt oneness, a feeling of belonging to this great whole, governed by universal laws, beyond each one of us. I was aware of our entangled destiny, the interbeing of everything. I felt bliss, perhaps for the first time in my brief journey in this world. I was detached from life, and eventually ready to accept the inevitable, my own death, my own impermanence. All these experiences made me understand the greatest lesson of all. Nothing is impossible in this lifetime. It all comes down to the will to find your true purpose, setting up your mission, building up from your past to get to where you want to go, not forgetting that it is in the process that lies what's most important. Nothing that is truly valuable will appear from nothing with no struggle. The mistakes and obstacles on the way will be the glue that makes up your future wisdom. It all comes down to being aware and mindful that every single step is part of the journey. Be brave, be courageous, and determined to fight for your ideas. You are the battleground of what you believe in. This transcendental adventure connected me with nature. The vast ocean and open skies were my reconnection with life. Witnessing the dance of thousands of dolphins and fluorescent planktons floating around the boat. Observing calmly the world around me with serenity and detachment. Understanding that we are not master nor owners of nature, but we share our common destiny with it. We're losing touch with life and its essence. We're losing our common sense, forgotten our values. We have to awaken our consciousness, understand our ego and its destructive patterns. There's a cancer growing in every human mind, pushing us towards destruction and absurdity. Part of this cancer is called hubris, a character flaw in humans that leads to desire more power and seek dominance, pushing us to be out of touch with reality. Our greed, our power, and our narcissism is our curse. Empathy is an innate capacity to feel what the other's feelings. Compassion is defined as the desire to put an end to the suffering of others and the causes of that suffering. Altruism is an act free of self-interest. The other's joy is the ultimate goal. We overcame resentment, envy, and jealousy, all product of the ego, when our happiness derives solely from the other's happiness. Vengeance turned into forgiveness, hate into love, and anger into kindness. There there is something we should have learned from these last 2 years, it's how everything is connected, and how one person getting sick in a faraway land quickly impacts all of us. And not even in times of crisis the wall of our disconnection broke down, as we can see from all the lies and chaotic leaderships from our politicians, media manipulations, and funds misappropriation, divisive discourse, and erosion of democracy in full force. We need to initiate an enlightened paradigm shift, a conscious choosing of the evolution we want to commit as a species, one that is taking into account everything else around us and how connected we are. Our body, our planet, our home. Realizing that freedom and empathy are interlinked in the fabric of our potential, that we can take the tomorrow in our own present hands and shape it as we want. From consumers to global citizens, people who are capable of governing themselves, mindful and ethical in their decisions, putting compassion into action as a rebel gestures against too many decades of selfish leaders and rotten decision makers. Change starts by getting out of our comfort zone and reacting with determination and consistency. We need to rethink, regroup, and organize ourselves into rebuilding our world. And in an era where so many young people feel powerless and purposeless, this is our chance to be involved and pursue a common meaning. This adventure, this challenge we have in our hands, is the right time to exist and give a purpose to our life. Be aware of your capacity to fight, to stand up for your rights and for what you believe in. We must awaken our consciousness and practice convivialism, the art of living together. It's time to transform the fever from our collective disease into the heat of passionate change, to channel our anger into a will for a better world. Because they might say there is no tomorrow, but we are here to show them we can create one from the ruins they left behind.